alright, at some point, the Knicks just have to adjust their lineup, because teams are going to continue assigning their bigs onto Hart, and once again, they had no answer for it, so they struggled to generate offense whenever he was on the floor, especially in the first half. As I've said many times before, there's a trickle effect, because first, the Thunder's bigs didn't have to respect him on his pop or roll, so whenever he was a screener, they could just show off Brunson's screens and force him off the rock with no consequences. Then second, it allowed the Thunder to assign their big guards onto Karl, so depending on the lineup, it was either Dort, Caruso, or even Kenrich Williams in the fourth, and that nullified Karl as the hub for the Knicks' screening actions, because whenever he was a screener, they could just blow those up with a simple switch. That obviously affected Brunson the most, because it was difficult for him to exploit his ball screens, and his one advantage on the night was really just his hunts, so he probably could have done more of that throughout. As expected, his main target was McCain, because he knew McCain would hedge, so that would just put two on the rock for the others to exploit the backside, and if McCain did concede the switch, then he could just attack the matchup. But it took until the third before he did more of that. Then he even started hunting Shai down the wire in the fourth, and I think there were easier advantages the Knicks could have looked to exploit, because Karl had an inherent mismatch the entire night, so I still don't understand why they didn't pound the rock through him. Even though some of it is on him to be demanding and getting a good duck in or seal against smaller defenders, I still think more of it is on Mike Brown, because it shouldn't be difficult for a simple cross to get Karl in the post on a clear side, and just have him exploit his size advantage until the Thunder adjust. I've never seen a second option get disrespected as much as Karl, and he basically had to create his own advantage on the O boards, because at least he was able to use his size for cleanups throughout, so he was still providing scoring. But they didn't even have to feed Karl, because they could just get better spacing with Diawara instead of Hart, and him allowing them to play 4 or 5 out, so I think Mike Brown's got to run that lineup more. Diawara does not ever hesitate to shoot, so teams can't just cheat off him, and to no surprise, once Hart subbed out in the third, they wanted to score 40 in that quarter, because even if it's not for Diawara, their spacing is always better with Hart off the floor. That forced the Thunder to assign their bigs onto OG, and that adjustment was crucial for the Knicks' offense in the second half, not just in that quarter, because at least OG was an actual threat as a screener, so the Thunder had to respect him. The only issue was really just the Knicks not being able to carry the momentum from the third over into the fourth, so it became a game of buckets in that quarter, and I was even more surprised to see him still not trying to find Karl inside, because the Thunder had to go small throughout, so I expected that to give them more of an incentive to exploit his size. But all that happened to Karl was him fouling out, and even though they still had a couple of chances to force OT, I think the game was lost before those last two misses, because on the night, the Thunder just exploited their advantages better, so that was the real difference. Their offense had more fluidity, because they knew exactly what they were trying to do, compared to the Knicks being a little hesitant in their play, and a lot of that stemmed from Shai, so damn near every time he had the rock, he was generating a quality look. As expected, he was mainly manipulating ball screens, because first, the Knicks were having their bigs drop in their screening actions, and were heavy in the gaps, so whenever he got to his spots, he just had to make the right reads. Then second, whenever he went hunting, especially for smaller defenders, he was either getting a mismatch to attack, or was forcing two on the rock, because the Knicks were having them hedge, and then even started firing after the switch, so there was always an advantage being created off those. But from the second onward, the Knicks even started having their bigs show at times, so that was opening up the backside for the others too, and what made it all work was the others being decisive on the catch, because that .5 playstyle was unlocking the Thunder's driving kick. The Knicks just struggled to contain the rock, so all that helping was putting him in a scramble often, and the main beneficiary of Shai's gravity was Chet, because he got into a rhythm early. But it wasn't just about Shai's gravity, because Kesa was handling the rock a lot and was manipulating the drops just as easily as Shai, so even he got a double drag for a quick hunt on Brunson one time. The only issues the Thunder were really having were the turnovers throughout, and then Zay having to leave the game in the second half, because they were relying on him as the hub, so without him as the screener, they couldn't continue exploiting the drop as their main advantage, especially in the fourth. That forced them to basically go small the entire quarter, so Shai was either hunting or had to use Dort as the screener, because the Knicks were assigning Karl to him late, and either option just led to the Knicks forcing the rock out of Shai's hands. Unfortunately, the others weren't making the same shots as earlier, but fortunately, Shai recognized that, so he decided not to call for a ball screen on his crucial tray, and that make was just as important as the Knicks' misses at the end of the game, because that shot was what forced the Knicks into looking for a trade to force OT. Just watch the tape.
Knocks down the clutch three, and that makes it a 7-point game.